Let me start with you on this news that we've just reported that you just heard from our Peter Cook. How significant will it be for Richard Shelby, the Republican from Alabama and the senior member of the Banking Committee, to get on board with financial regulatory overhaul?
Hi, Mark. I think it is a matter of if, not, or I believe it is a matter of when, not if the senator is going to get on financial reform. This will happen, and I think the deal, or at least the nucleus of the deal, is that the Democrats will have the Consumer Protection Agency. The Republicans, with the Democrats' blessing, will move away from the financial resolution. They will have derivatives, and they also get the Volcker rule. I think it's just a question of when this matter will come to an end. Financial reform will happen, and my guess it's going to happen sooner than most people expect. I believe, and I expect some Republicans, led by Shelby, to essentially conclude their arguments or disagreements in a matter of days.
Matt, we know that you already don't like the financials as an investment. Does the whole issue of financial regulatory reform play into that and make them less attractive?
Sure, absolutely. I think the government wants to make most financials almost like utilities, where the returns are regulated, the pay is regulated, their ROE is regulated. They essentially want very moderate returns and low risk. They want to manage the business cycle. And I think when you look at the way that many of these companies have made money in the past, that through regulatory reform, through legal actions that are coming, and government interference will occur. Now, let's be fair. These financials, in many cases, are deserving. They are not pure. But the answer for the government's sake is more regulation, which I think has more questions versus answers for financial issues. We do own names like Bank of Nova Scotia, that is in Canada, which is obviously not participating in some of this noise. We also like Northern Trust, which is a trust and custody play, and T. Rowe Price. So we've tried to insulate ourselves from some of this financial regulatory risk. But if you look at the Volcker rule, that is squarely aimed at companies like Goldman Sachs and proprietary trading, which will only impact their shares.
But Matt, let me take a pause on that to take the Volcker rule as an example. I mean, a lot of folks who are looking at the bottom line of these banks, and the banks themselves defending, Goldman, for instance, and some of the other firms defending themselves against the Volcker rule, say it's not even that much of their business. So when you look at the regulations that are on the table, I mean, how much are they really going to affect the bottom line?
Right now, you're absolutely correct that if you look at the way that some people are parsing what the difference of proprietary trading or trading against the client, that is yet to be defined. And I guess I'm somewhat cynical that many people will view that the legislation that, to my knowledge, few people have read, if at all, will come out and be beneficial to these companies. I am betting on the regulation to be more onerous than most people expect, to be more costly, and to be more difficult for these companies going forward. I do not expect them to get a break.
And Vicki Ward, let me ask you, because what we've been hearing about maybe Richard Shelby bringing a lot of Republicans on board here, is the concern, or has the concern been too much regulation, as Matt just told us, regulation that's too onerous?
Well, I think it's partly too much regulation, but it's also it was really to do with this resolution authority that does in fact endorse too big to fail. I mean, that's really the big issue, isn't it, for the Republicans? And so I think if they can move away from that, you know, I hear what your other guest was saying, and I'm a cynic. I mean, having written a book about sort of, you know, good guys who went to Wall Street, got rich, and then blew up the bank. I'm hesitant to think that sort of any regulation actually will make any difference at all. Having said that, I don't think, given what has happened, the government can stand by and do nothing. So if all people, Senator Shelby is going to meet with Senator Dodd on this, I think that has to be a good thing. It really does.
All right. Well, we'll keep monitoring the situation, of course. Vicki Ward, contributing editor at Vanity Fair, and obviously, as she reminded us, she wrote a book as well about the collapse of Lehman Brothers. And Matt McCormick of Ball and Gainer, frequent guest, talks to us about what's going on with the banks, and a lot has been going on lately.